Welcome to Totally Naked Movie Reviews, where we review today's top movies, stripping them down to their bare essentials and exposing any faults they might have. Today we're going to look at Sausage Party. So going into this, I was kind of excited to see this movie. It looked like it was a satire of all the Pixar movies and all the sort of Disney computer animated movies, like Cars, Toy Story, Ants, Bugs Life, Planes, Wreck-It Ralph even. And it was going to sort of satire that idea of inanimate objects being conscious and sentient and having a world of their own with this sort of raunchy comedy. And that's pretty much what it was. It was a satire of all those movies, but there was more to it. So let's talk. The basic premise of Sausage Party is food is alive. Food can think. Food has little legs and little arms. And the characters are all in a grocery store. You've got Seth Rogen doing the voice of Frank, a hot dog. Kristen Wiig is a bun. You've got Michael Cera and Jonah Hill. There are two other hot dogs who are buddies of Frank's. And you've got Nick Kroll playing a douche. An actual douche. As far as casting goes, I thought I didn't feel Nick Kroll was right for the parts. You know, him playing the douche. I thought that could have gone to someone else more deserving of playing a character who's a douche. Like maybe bring Craig Kilborn out of retirement. But he did a good job with playing the douche. Anyway, the basic story is, as I said, food's alive. They're all in a grocery store and they want to get picked by the consumers because they think that the customers are basically gods. And when they get taken off the shelves and put in the cart, they're headed to the great beyond. You know, it's this whole religious belief that, you know, outside of the grocery store is paradise. And like with the hot dogs and the buns, they think they're going to get their freak on once they get out. You know, it's like, hey, we go together, and it's like this whole sexual metaphor. But once they get out, they realize that the gods are evil and they eat them. Seth Rogen's character, Frank, he doesn't get out of the store. Neither is Kristen Wiig's character, because there's an accident. The cart gets knocked over and a bunch of the food gets thrown out, including the two of them. And basically, their storyline is they're trying to find out the truth. The reason the accident happened is because there was this jar of honey mustard who had been to the outside and came back and he's got like PSD. It's all a lie, man. It's all a lie. And he's like freaking out. And once they put him back in, he's like, I'm not going back, man. And he commits suicide. And Frank was trying to help him. That's why he's out of the package along with Brenda. And basically he wants to know what the honey mustard was talking about. What does he mean it's all a lie? And that's his character arc, is going through the grocery store and running into characters who know the truth. These non-perishable foods have been in the grocery store for forever because they won't rot. You know, like a bottle of fire whiskey and a Twinkie and a box of like microwavable grits. They know the truth, and that's his storyline. You know, finding the truth, exposing the truth, and trying to get all the food to group together to fight the evil gods. Yeah, so that's the storyline. Of course, Michael Cera's character Barry, he's got this whole arc where he was, you know, he could have stayed Frank, but he didn't, so he thinks he's a coward. Then they go to the one woman's house who takes all the food and starts just eating it, chopping it up, and slaughtering it in their eyes. So he takes off and he's got to get back to the grocery store to warn everyone. So he's got that arch. And then Nick Kroll's character wants revenge. He blames Frank for the accident and how he was cast out of the shopping cart. And he's like, I have a new motivation and it's revenge. And that is something I like. These weren't just goofy characters. They had motivations, they had thoughts, they had emotions. And I thought it was presented pretty well. That was one of the stronger things about the movie. Another one was a lot of good social commentary. Basically, they were talking about, I guess, religion and politics. Like at the beginning of the story, you see everyone singing about the great beyond, and you know, it's like fruits and corn, sauerkraut, and they all have kind of different ideas of what the great beyond is to them, and then you realize that's a metaphor for politics and religion, and like Frank is supposed to trying to expose that it's all fake, and they need to stop fighting one another and band together. So I thought that was a pretty decent social commentary. They also have a routine where they have a bagel and a lavish, a Jewish character and a Muslim character, and they don't get along, and there's this whole social commentary about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So that was another strength of the movie. But now let's get into I guess faults. All right, so the idea that you have this grocery store and that the condiments and all the food is alive, and at night it turns into its own world, it kind of sounded familiar to me. There was this movie called Food Fight. And it's almost the same concept, but it wasn't food, it was like the mascots, like Frankenberry, or Charlie the Tuna, or Miss Buttersworth. They were alive, and they were the ones whose world the grocery store was. The food was still food. But the storyline is a little different. They're not worried about being sent to the great beyond and being killed. There was some other brand coming in, and it's this whole satire of Casablanca. But the similarities between Food Fight and Sausage Fest, they're Sausage Party, they're there. So I don't think this movie was that original. And if you know anything about Food Fight, which is a terrible movie, by the way, it just sucks. I've never seen it myself, but I've seen people like Cinema Snob and the Nostalgia Critic just sort of tear it apart. One of the things with that one is the reason it's so terrible is it was unfinished. They had all the graphics in this computer, and that got stolen. So I kind of wonder who might have stolen it. Another fault with it, we're talking about the different worlds. Like, basically, I brought up how in one section you've got this, you've got kosher food, and you've got halal food, I think it's called. Muslim, Jewish food, and in the middle is hummus. And the bagel, like I said, he's Jewish, and the lavish is like Muslim, and there's a lot of that in the movie where like the food comes from a certain ethnic group. That character has that sort of ethnic trait to them. Like all the Mexican food, they're all played as like stereotypical Mexicans in the 1800s. Like the potato, he's Irish, which, okay, yeah, I know there were potatoes in Ireland, but they're also in Idaho, so why is he Irish? One of the worst, I think, was the Firewater character. He's the whiskey that has this sort of like Native American logo on it, and he's played as this sort of stereotypical like Indian from the old Western movies with the hey ya hey ya hey ya hey how you doing? And that character was annoying. I'm not much of a PC guy, but some of it was like, why would you do that? Also, I was somewhat confused by the rules of this, like this world. It's sort of like, I guess all the organic produce is alive, like the hot dogs, the apples, the bagels and whatnot. But then they have some, like the douche. How is that alive? Because every other inanimate object that wasn't made from some kind of food product, they're not alive. It's not like the shopping cart's alive, or cars are alive in this world, but somehow this douche is alive. Also, you got like toilet paper and like a light bulb. Now, the toilet paper, I guess you could say, because it's made of paper, it came from an organic substance, so that's why it has sentience. But like, what's with the douche? Isn't that like rubber, plastic, and soap? Like, is the soap, does that come from animals' fat or something? I don't know what's in the douche. But anyway, the light bulb doesn't seem to make any sense. Why is a light bulb alive? It was just there for the joke that they have with the douche character. Whenever he says something like, I'm going bananas, and all of a sudden this bananas would come up like, you're talking to me? like, I'm going nuts, and then the nuts would be like, oh, you're talking to me? You know, at one point he said something about he got an idea, so he has a light bulb. He's like, light bulb, and the light bulb was like, you talking to me? Yeah, that's another gag that you see throughout it, and it's only, for me, it was only funny like 2 times. Like the first time, and then it's kind of repetitive, and then there was one you don't see coming, and that was funny. So those are the major faults. I guess calling it Sausage Party was also confusing because the main character is a hot dog. I mean, is that a sausage? It's sort of like Troll 2 with it's called Troll 2, but there's no trolls. It's all about goblins. This is about hot dogs. I could be wrong. There could be a sausage in the movie at one time because there's just so many characters, so many little food things that come alive that you'd have to watch it again to catch them all. Okay, so I think that's enough. Let's get into rating. So like I said, I did enjoy the commentary. I enjoyed the social commentary. I enjoyed the comedy, the raunchiness. I thought it was funny. I thought the characters had motivations. I liked that. Nice storyline. The parts I didn't like was kind of like blatant racism. Some things were confusing, and I didn't think it was that original. Now, the way I do my ratings is I base it on how much money I spent and how much money I think it was worth it. And I think you take away for the racism, the confusing world that they live in, and being, lack of originality, seeing how you had food fight, I'd say take $2 off of that. You got $7 out of $9. That's how I rated Sausage Party. One thing that kind of irked me is when I was coming out of the movie theater, I heard this one guy say, he came from Sausage Party too. He says, I thought that was a pretty funny movie. I don't think I'll ever see it again. And I couldn't disagree with that guy more because I want to watch it again because there's just so much there. You didn't catch everything well. So you watch it on DVD, you can pause it here and there and see how many different food characters they have and see if there's any sausages in Sausage Party.